Yeah, no, it would be something that's very threatening, and anything that tears it away from their centralized control grid and puts it back into community control certainly would be a big threat to them. Thank you very much for those answers.
Hi, Catherine. This is Vito again. I have a question from forum member Disaster Cat. It reads as follows. I understand you have been working with other people in your own region in order to form small communities that will be able to adapt to more localized production and food supply issues that may arise within the next few years. Could you tell us more about what you and others are doing? Also, what do you feel are the most important things for people interested in forming such communities to tackle first? And are there any lessons that you've learned so far that you can pass on to us?
That's an excellent question. We've tried a series of different things here. I live in western Tennessee, and I've tried a series of different things with different groups. And then also I've worked with two communities in middle Tennessee and seen various things. I think what I find is most important is that within a community, people are exceptionally conflicted as to whether or not they want to be on the pro-centralization team or the pro-decentralization team. So, for example, you'll see an activity get going that has a lot of energy, and suddenly, suddenly the people involved will get offered government contracts and government programs, and it kind of kills the energy on anything that's occurring in sort of a natural market. So there's a real effort by the old model to kind of buy people away or use a variety of positive and negative incentives to kind of bollocks up the effort. And so I think the efforts I've seen really succeed are when you have, it's often a family who are very, very clear that they want nothing to do with government money and government programs, or large corporations and big foundations, and they're very clear whatever they do has to be self-sustaining on just a marketplace serving individuals. And where you get that kind of clarity and a commitment to do it, and people go at it over long periods of time, and you kind of keep people out who are really not interested in that model, you get real success. So, for example, if you watch a farmer like Joel Salatin, apparently Salatin told a group over at the farm last year that he has $2 million a year of sales, which, having visited his farm in operation, I can absolutely believe. But, he has a family, and they've been spending decades building, absolutely committed to doing things which are truly entrepreneurial and don't involve government money. He's found many ways of sort of dealing with government that are very effective. But he basically keeps them out of his income statement and his balance sheet. I've seen the same with Franklin Sanders and his farm and family. But again, they were very, very clear. And anytime I've seen a group, we did a financial permaculture conference over in Hohenwald, and basically the operation got pulled apart because between sort of big corporate money and big government money, they kind of showed up and wanted to change things. So I think to be successful, you need to be really, really clear that you want to get off the Titanic and build an ark, but you've got to stay on that ark and stay focused on it. And so, how can you build a group of people who are really committed to staying away from government and big corporations and understand you've got to be one or the other? And that, believe it or not, and I've found in America is much harder to do than you would think.
Well, I believe you. It's we all, to some extent, are part of the matrix. It's hard to cut it off. I now have a question from Jules, and he writes, Solari circles concentrate on funding local communities like a financial action club with people working in groups with the tenet of honesty and trust. With Fukushima and its radiation poisoning, the uncertainty from earth changes, climate, weather, and the potential of global economic collapse, it would seem that Solari circles would be the perfect foundation to start survival groups. I'm curious, are you now taking steps for the collapse of society and living a survivalist mentality, for example, storable food and water, location away from populated areas, and underground shelters from radiation?
No. If you look at the property where where I've been living for the last since 2004, and a community where I've been living from 2000. So I have my own generator. I have gardens. I've been planting orchards. I've spent a great deal of time and effort figuring out a disaster recovery plan. I'm trying to take my ham radio license. So I'm doing a lot of these things, and I think they're very useful. At the same time, I'm much more focused on what I want my contribution to be to build the future, because I think the chances of, I'm not planning on global economic collapse, but I have spent my focus trying to figure out a way to build a successful business that really helps people navigate this environment. And I'm not prepared to try and live a totally self-sufficient existence, because living by myself, I can't do a totally self-sufficient existence and build the business. And as it turns out, one of the things I'm going to need to do for the business is travel extensively. So that's going to put me in a situation where I'm sort of dependent on the goodwill of strangers and the infrastructure working. And, if the global collapse should ever come, good heavens, I have no idea whether I'll be in Singapore or London or, in the wilds of Montana. But I'm not, my expectation is we're going to continue to have slow burn with all sorts of local collapses and warfare and problems like that. So I don't see myself building a survivalist lifestyle, and frankly, I'm much more interested in thriving than in surviving. I'm not very interested in surviving. My vision of the world is an abundant vision, and I don't think that that the survivalist mentality works. So the other thing is I've been through some pretty violent times in my life and dealt with a lot of violence, and one of the things I've discovered is death is not the worst thing that can happen. So I'm a lot more concerned about protecting myself from certain kinds of spiritual scenarios than of protecting myself from physical death.
Well, I think we all share in that. I hope you're right. Thank you for that answer. And now we're going to move on to Green Meadow, who has more related questions for you on this subject.
Okay.
Hi, Catherine.
Hi.
I'm wondering, what is the fate of the middle class in all of this? Dmitry Orlov thinks it's ridiculous to try and take it with you, so to speak, and he thinks that we need to adapt to a new reality. What do you think?
Well, I'm not very good at adapting to poverty. I've been very poor, and I'm not interested in, being poor or staying poor. So, but I do think we need to adapt to a new reality, because everything is shifting. Technology is shifting, the economics are shifting, and so if we're going to live a healthy life or a financially healthy life, we have to shift. Now, I think it's very important to understand that there is a group of people centralizing power and money and doing it in a way that's hugely destructive of everything and everyone, including us. So, so we are engaged in a game of spiritual and economic warfare, and it is important to be flexible. So I think Orlov makes some good points, but I think our greater risk is getting tangled up in the matrix in a way that is horrifying for our soul, and that's going to be our bigger risk. But I don't think there's any reason why we can't have an abundant life on planet Earth, and I'm for one, I'm prepared to fight for it, as opposed to embrace poverty and think that that's my lot in life.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking it's almost more of a paradigm shift. That
right.
The thinking is the piece that really needs to change. So do you think the middle class needs to change their thinking?
Well, I'm sure they need to change their thinking, because when you take a group of people and we talked about the red button problem the last time we spoke. when you take a group of people who think that it's okay to go kill people all over the world and steal from them all over the world so that they can live a nice, comfortable, convenient lifestyle without being productive, that is very negative karma, and it puts you off sides with the whole planet. It puts you offside with the divine intelligence, and it certainly, sends up a signal to Mr. Global that he can take you out at any time because you have no real friends and no real power. So I think ethically, the American middle class has put itself in a very bad position.
Okay.
So when we embrace non-sustainability at the expense of others, then don't be surprised if the machinery comes around and eats you.
Yeah. Okay, I think you'll like my next question. People are always asking you, what's our % chance of collapse? I want to turn that around because disaster and opportunity are kind of close cousins. What is our % chance of renaissance in the next 10 years? And what are the pieces we would need to have a renaissance?
Well, I think the chances of renaissance are reasonably good, and I don't know if it's in the next 10 years. I think the question is, can we integrate new or available healthcare and energy technology along with digital technology in a way that doesn't lead to, that leads to freedom and not fascism? And I think the chances of renaissance are greater than the chances of collapse. And of course, the political question that we sort of got into the last time we spoke was, for the most powerful people on the planet to go along with renaissance, is their formula that we need depopulation first. So they're happy to have renaissance, but they're not happy to have renaissance with 6 billion people who will explode in numbers because the energy cost drops to zero. So I think the chances of renaissance are greater than the chances of collapse. And the big question mark is, to get there, do we have to experience significant depopulation first?
Yeah. Cross our fingers, huh? Thank you.
Catherine, thank you so much. This is McLaren. We really appreciate the time that you've been spending with us this evening. We've just spoken with Catherine Austin Fitts from Solari.com. Thank you for your time tonight, Catherine. We hope you've enjoyed it as much as we did. Otherwise, tough luck. Sorry.
Yes, I've enjoyed it tremendously.
On your website, you introduced Solari Circles with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. "The only devils in the world are those running around in our own hearts. That is where the battle should be fought." The information you provide have helped many to defeat those devils, empowering them with knowledge. But your greatest gift is the gift of inspiration. Every accomplishment starts with the decision to try, and many have made that decision thanks to you. On behalf of Fox and all of the members of the WebBot Forum, we thank you, Catherine. In our tradition, may you and your family have many pies to come.
You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.